Mr. Sandman. It was a random Thursday night in late September, early October of my sophomore year of college. My 3 roommates and I had some of our friends over to the townhouse we shared for a low-key night of drinking and board games. After a while, the conversation got on the topic of the paranormal and hauntings and stuff. The house I grew up in and my parents still occupied was haunted, so I was sharing some of the crazy stuff we experienced from my childhood. Others began telling crazy stuff they read online or they experienced themselves and whatnot. It was one of those semi-drunken, fun conversations you have in your early 20s that no one really takes seriously. There was one person who hadn't said a word since the topic of the paranormal had come up. My roommate Jay's girlfriend Becca, not their real names, had been sitting in the corner of the sectional couch with a look of true fear plastered on her face, as if she had remembered something terrible. One of my other roommates asked her what was wrong. "I don't really like talking about this stuff," she replied. We asked her why. She at first was hesitant to get into it, but relented after some more pressing. Here's her story. When Becca was 10, her parents separated and her mom took her brother, 12, and younger sister, 5, to live in this old house that had once been occupied by an elderly couple who had recently passed. The kids did think it was creepy that the previous owners had died, but were reassured by their mom that the people didn't die in the house, but rather at a nursing facility a few miles away. Becca indicated this put her at ease and that nothing really happened for the first few months or so of them living there. But after a while, her little sister, who she shared a room with, started acting very, very strange. Becca would wake up in the night to see her sister frozen on all fours on her bed, staring at nothing. She would talk to her new imaginary friends and became increasingly agitated over the smallest stuff. She refused to eat and began growling and grunting at everyone, even in public. But according to Becca, by far the creepiest thing she started doing was singing Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes in this odd voice. Becca couldn't really explain the voice at the time, but assured us it was creepy. And this was all the time, like almost every second of every day. Becca said she'd wake up in the middle of the night, with her sister on her bed frozen on all fours, staring at nothing, singing Mr. Sandman in this strange voice. Their mother at first thought it was a phase and didn't really do much about it. This went on for months until one night Becca woke up to the sounds of her mom screaming. She looked over, and her sister was not in her bed. She bolted to her door and crashed into her brother in the hallway. They looked down the hall to their mom's bedroom and the door was closed. As they started sprinting to the door, it opened and her little sister comes out laughing and talking to her imaginary friend. They barreled past her to their mom's room and asked her what happened. Their mother refused to tell them. All she was doing was crying and telling them to check on their sister. Neither of them wanted to because it was super creepy, so they just ended up sleeping in their mom's room that night. The little sister went back to her room and the entire night was singing Mr. Sandman loudly. The next morning, their dad came over to stay on the couch for a few days. Apparently he had experienced something similar during one of his weekends with the kids, so he believed their mom. Ultimately, this led to her parents reconciling and the family moving back into their old house with their dad. As soon as they did that, the weird behavior stopped. Becca told us she can't hear the Mr. Sandman song without getting creeped out. We were floored. But then Becca went on to blow our minds further. She had proof of some of this at her home in her hometown, which was only an hour and a half away. Apparently, her little sister liked to record herself singing pop songs and stuff as a kid, and captured something super creepy shortly after they moved in. Becca decided to go home that weekend and get the tape. It was excruciating waiting until she got back Sunday. Sunday night, she came over with an old Talkboy tape recorder from Home Alone 2 and the tape. You had to listen with headphones because apparently it was pretty faint, so we had to take turns. When it became my turn, I couldn't believe it. The tape starts pretty innocuous. You hear a sink running and dishes clanking against one another. Someone is doing dishes. A woman softly begins humming. It sounds like the mother doing dishes humming to herself. The humming begins to shift into singing. Then, it's Mr. Sandman. The woman's voice softly sings, "Mr. Sandman, bring me a drink." Then Becca's sister starts singing but is messing up the words. She then says, "Mommy, how does the Mr. Sandman song go?" A different woman's voice speaks. "Well, sweetheart," it goes, "Mr. Sandman, bring me a drink." The original woman's voice is still singing at the same time. She then stops and states, "Earl, I think the little one can hear us." The tape then has all these weird growls and static noise and then cuts out. Childhood trauma. In a summer of 2016, me and my cousin went out to go to the woods to get some logs for my fire pit we were going to have earlier. And around 6 p.m., we came back to our homes. It was a very gray, sad day today. Nothing special. Everything was just sad. When my father asked me if I could go run the generator outside the house, I calmly did so. But then I heard running sounds outside. I thought it was just a squirrel or some animal I triggered. As I went to the generator, I pulled it 5 times. The average times I need to pull the generator to activate was 3 times. Weird, I thought to myself. I came back home and there was a reunion with my family outside the campfire. We ate chocolate and s'mores. I got tired, so I went to bed. All that hard work finding woods was very tiring. I fell asleep in 10 minutes. When I woke up, everything was silent. Is it 3 a.m.? I thought to myself. I checked my clock and it was 12. When I stood up, I heard the same running noise I heard before. I got scared. When I looked out the window, I couldn't imagine my eyes when I saw a white skeleton horse with bones in every part of the body. It was there, looking at me with its dark, empty eyes. I didn't know what to do. I had called 911 while still looking at the anomaly. It hasn't moved. The police arrived and I felt calmer. When the police barged in the door, they came running up to me. They knew I was the one who called, having my phone in my hand and my worried expression on my face. When I looked at the window again, it was gone. The police asked me what had happened and I said I saw a creature. The police seemed upset. I was 8 at the time, so I didn't know how to explain this weird-looking creature. The police had only made a stalker report. As a few days passed, I noticed my eyes were always wide open. At school, I started doing my average therapy session with my counselor, thinking it would calm me. When school ended, I started walking home. But when I heard a buzz on my phone, it was a number I've never recognized. The phone number was 347-917-092, and they have sent me an attachment of an image. As I was unlocking my phone to look at it, my whole body stopped. It was a picture of me and the counselor. The angle was as if somebody right next to me had took it. But when I saw the window, the creature was there. The screams: I'm an 18-year-old male, and I live in Guanajuato, Mexico. I speak English, so it's hard to live here. P.S. I know all the urban legends here. I was walking to the market to get some breakfast around 8:47 a.m. and took a walk after. My normal walk path, which is across a bridge over a river around 10:30 a.m. But what I didn't know was the horror the bridge had. So when I got to the bridge, the wind started to pick up and leaves and dust flying into my face. I couldn't move, it was pushing me away. I had to run backwards to get the force to move. Then I heard it, the horror of a scream, the cries. I couldn't stand it. I tried my best to get past it. When I did it, stopped like nothing happened. I then heard babies crying. I didn't know where from. All around me, the scream crying of an unknown baby. I decided to just keep running all the way back home. I got home, and the time was 9:30 p.m. How was it possible that I was in the sequence for several hours? It just felt like 20 minutes, maybe 30. But at least I was home. Trying to fall asleep was like living it all over again. The scream, the cries, the chills. I can't stand it. I'm starting to think it's not in my head. Maybe it's in the house, maybe it's in the room with me. What if I'm already dead? What if I'm the one screaming?